That's why I have a backup plan always. I always have a backup plan, or two or three. Okay, so what we're gonna do, welcome everybody. We're gonna talk about the tax appraisals that just came out. And I think it's, well, I just find it fascinating because I do live my life trying to find the good, heat-seeking a missile, trying to find the good and stuff. Because at the end of the day, if you're not looking for that, then you're looking for something else. And usually that's the negative or the energy that's not really, that's really not helpful. And so, hey, it's my good buddy.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, you're fine. We just started. And so I was, I remember I moved here. I've lived here twice in Wichita Falls. I'm originally born and raised in California. And so I don't remember a lot of it last time. I don't know why I don't remember a lot of it last time, but I was paying attention to other things. But the moment I moved here in 2019, within a few months, the tax appraisals came out. And I saw on the television, the news, everybody's up in arms. And that was before all the craziness started happening this last few years. And that just was, you know, once again, bitching and moaning about what's happening. And I'm thinking, okay, well, interestingly enough, the mayor at the time was on the TV saying, well, I don't even have anything to do with this. And I'm like, well, okay, so who does? And what I've come to learn, so that I've paid more attention, is that no, he doesn't have anything to do with it. It's not in his purview at all. But at the same time, he's the leader of the town, so it might be important for him to share the information. I had to go out and find it. And then what I learned is in Texas, and this is all over the country. It doesn't make any difference whether you're Texas here or not. Property taxes are on property throughout the country. I mean, that's how governmental entities get their revenue. Here in Texas, we have property taxes that are higher than most of the other states in the union, but we also don't have income tax. So there's a wash there. And at the same time, everybody in the entire country has had the value of their houses go up. And unless you're sleeping under a rock, you know that the real estate market has been on fire. Well, that directly impacts what the value of your house is, because that's why people buy it. They say it's worth this much money, I'll pay you this much money, and everybody agrees and you move on, and then that determines the actual value of the property. So, I'm just waiting for them to come on in. Come on in.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It gets noisy out there, so I shut the door. So, with that being said, there is a constitutional requirement in the state of Texas. So we're going through this, I'm going to sort of hit these bullet points. It says the Texas mandates by constitution that counties appraise their property each year based on market value of that year using standard appraisal processes. So when I hear people say, especially when they feel like it's just here isolated somehow, it's like, oh, why do they keep doing this to us? It's so mean. Stop taxing us. I'm like, okay, look. It is not something that anybody is doing to anybody. It is the Constitution of our state of Texas that says we are going to assess the properties every year at this time, April, May, and determine the values of them. And then we're going to base our taxes on that value. Now, there's a lot of different ways that shakes out, but I just wanted to give you a quick example of what an appraisal is based on, because a lot of people are thinking, and rightfully so, my house isn't worth that, because it might not be. And so what happens is, imagine you've got basically city blocks, okay? You got your neighborhood. So everybody can feel where their neighborhood is. When you drive around a few blocks around your house, there's a neighborhood. And that's what each neighborhood will be defined a little bit differently, but let's just say within a 5-block radius, either way, of your house, let's say your house is right here in the middle, the valuation, the market value of your house, if I were to go sell you a piece of property and you had an appraiser come over, a certified real estate appraiser, not the appraisal district, certified real estate appraiser is going to come in and go, here's your house, you have 3 bedrooms, you have 2 baths, you have a garage, you don't have a pool, the neighbor over here has a pool, you have a shop in the backyard, and your house hasn't been updated since 1985. Okay? So you have other houses in your neighborhood that are 3 bedrooms, one's a 3-1. This guy's got a pool, he's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. This guy over here, it's a brand new house, it's a 4-bedroom and a 2-bath. What this appraiser is looking for is houses, and you might hear people banter around, this is an industry term as far as I'm concerned, the comparable sales in your neighborhood. The appraiser is looking for, oh no, let's say there's another house over here that's 6 bedrooms and, 4 bathrooms. He or she is looking for a house that's similar to yours to determine the value of your house. So when I say similar, I mean it has 3 bedrooms, it has 2 baths, it has a garage, it has, hopefully we can find a shop in the backyard, and it's got a similar square footage. It's not a 2-story over here. This is 3,000 square feet, and this one's 1,400. What they're looking for is a house that resembles yours and also in similar condition. This is what a real estate appraiser does, and the same age. So they'll come up with, an appraiser might have to go a little bit outside of your area because in your neighborhood you might not have exactly the same home. So they do have a tendency to go a little wider, but they're not supposed to go very wide. Well, here's what happens. The appraisal district is mandated to use standard appraisal practices, using a similar mindset here, but the county does not have the manpower, because an appraiser will come in and physically inspect your home and then go find the sales on what's called the multiple listing service that are similar, and they can see pictures of those houses as well to make a determination if they're similar. If you got a house that's all updated and it's got granite and it's got great flooring and it's got new windows, it's got a new air conditioning system, and like I said, yours hasn't been updated since 1985, they're not going to compare those 2 homes. If they were the only ones available, they could, but they do what's called adjustments on it. Well, the the assessor's office doesn't have the manpower to send out an appraiser for every property in our county, or any county for that matter, right? So what did they do? They use what's called an algorithm. So we've all been brainwashed by algorithms now. I hope we all know what they are. There's some secret formula that people put together on a computer, because I will never be a computer programmer. I took a class probably 30 years ago on how to program a computer, and I thought, this is not my bailiwick. I don't want anything to do with it because there's so much data that goes into that. So we've heard of AI, we've heard of algorithms. Basically what it is, it's an algorithm that has all the data for all the neighborhoods, for all the houses, and all the houses that have sold since the last time that they did this. Every year at this time, the appraisal district assesses the value of each and every property, including income properties, right? Your hotels, the Dobby Cleaners across the street, and they appraise every single property as of its value of January 1st of that year. So now, even though you're getting your appraisal now, the valuation that they're giving to you is the valuation of that property as of January 1st of this year. And then our tax bill doesn't come out until November. So it feels a little wonky to me because they're appraising it, they're determining the value of January 1st. We're not seeing it until now, and then we're not getting a bill until November. What's interesting about all this process is there's a lot of stuff that goes on between the time that you get your bill and what happened with the appraisal. Because the appraisal is just one step. And if you think about it, that the steps, there's an equation. So you have your appraised value, right? You have that, and then you're going to multiply that. This is how we're going to determine your taxes. You're going to multiply that times the factor, whatever that happens to be. So for Wichita County, there's a lot of different school districts. So there's a lot of things that go into this mix. And in each county in Texas, they have different components, but basically they all have three. They have the city component, they have the county component, and they have the school district component, okay? So now, if you live in a brand new development in the Metroplex or someplace like that, and they've got mud taxes, municipal utilities district taxes, they've got a whole lot of other things, they've got toll taxes, and they go all on your property tax thing. So this number, these breakdowns could be more, but here in Wichita County, these are our three. And they've got slots for other ones that make me a little nervous because they might be coming. But the thing is that in these components, each one of these has a factor. I'm making these factors up, okay? Because I don't know what they are. But you're going to see on your, and anybody can go on your tax, CAD, the Central Appraisal District. You type that in, Wichita CAD, says search for your property, it brings it up, and you can see everything about your property. You can see your square footage, you can see how much they're valuing your land for, how much they're valuing your building, your garage, the whole 9 yards. And then in this little box where it says how much your taxes are, it breaks it down by what percentage it is, and then down at the bottom, it's about 2.5 right now, the way they have them structured. So if this is your appraised value, if your appraised value is $100,000 and your tax factor is 2.5, this is pretty easy math, your taxes are $2,500 a year. That's how simple it is. Now where it gets complicated for people, I think, is they're not understanding that there's two components here. So let's just use an example. Let's say that factor wasn't 2.5, let's say it was 1%. Your appraisal could go up to $200,000 and you'd still pay less in taxes, right? So when people get so upset about the appraised value and they aren't paying attention to all the things that are going on, then I say, well, maybe you should notice what's happening in the world, because the state can't do anything different than what the Constitution says, and they have to go and appraise the properties based on the market. And people are always looking for somebody to blame. So I can give you the people to blame for the market going crazy. It's those darn millennials that decided to get into the market right after the pandemic. So let's just throw them all under the bus. It's all those builders that in 2008, when we had the meltdown, stopped building, so then we didn't have enough inventory. And it's that damn Federal Reserve, when they lowered those interest rates and they made them historically low, that everybody wanted to buy a house. So you had this perfect storm and all these people converging to buy houses, and everybody wants to come here, by the way, to Texas. Then we raised all of the values because those crazy California people, so let's throw them right in there with the mix, they all came here with their loads of cash and said, I'm going to outbid every single one of you, and I'm getting that house, right? So we don't have anybody to blame, really. This is just the circumstances that happened. Because of all those circumstances, the price of homes went up. And so did your gas, and so did your groceries, and now we have inflation, and we have high interest rates, and oh my God, I'm going to just give up and go to bed and put the covers over my head, right? You can go down those paths, or you can say, oh, okay, so I see why it happened, but where is the silver lining in all of this? And I think the fabulous silver lining is that we live in Texas. I told you I love living in Texas, and we have a government in Texas that really, truly knows what's happening, because they see all of this that I just described to you and all of this influx from all of these people, and they are committed, especially the governor, to having massive property tax reform. Massive. Now, it started last year, and that's why I was so excited to do this talk last year, is because, that'll go off in 30 minutes, so I'm going to just restart it. Because there was so much good news. They had already passed, or it was actually on the ballot for the next month, since when I did this talk last year. It was on the ballot for us to vote, because it has to pass the House and the Senate, to vote for a $40,000 tax exemption for your homestead, where it used to be $25,000. So they were already on the path. And that helped a lot of people. It did help a lot of people. Oh, if you filed it. You'd be surprised at how many people, because I see every day in and out, being in the business that I am, people that live in their homes and do not file their homestead exemption. So if you've got this $200,000 value, imagine that one, you take $40,000 off the school taxes, which are the most expensive, and you've got $160,000 value that you're now putting this factor onto. Who wouldn't do that? I'm telling you, there are plenty of people that don't. So the very first thing that everybody in this room, if you haven't filed for your homestead exemption, you need to do that immediately. The other the fabulous news is when I first moved here, the state had said you could not file a homestead exemption unless you had lived in the property the day before January 1st of the year that they were going to assess. I got here on January 1st. I missed it by 1 day. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I had to wait the whole next year to file my homestead exemption. So that first full year I paid full boat. But nowadays they passed other legislation that says you get your homestead exemption immediately. So that's fabulous. There's other exemptions. There's military disability exemptions. And there's my favorite. It's the over 65 exemption because it starts to really reduce. Here's the thing. When that happened, people went out and they voted, but they still aren't filing their homestead exemptions. So, okay, even if you didn't file a homestead exemption, one of the other fabulous things that our legislature did that started in 2021 and showed up on 2022 taxes was, in all of these entities, the city, the county, and the school, let's say the city, the county, and the school, each one of these has a budget. And because of these rates that are attached to these values, they get money. So let's say, I'm just using crazy numbers, okay? It's just easier math than me trying to go into the millions. So the city gets, they've collected, let's say in 2021, they were able to collect, because based on the valuations and the rates, they were able to collect $100,000 for their budget from property taxes. They made a law in 2019 that I said went into effect 2021, and then we saw the result last year. They cannot increase their budget just because they get a windfall because the appraisals went up. So imagine if the appraisals went up over 50%, they don't get the benefit of 50% more in dollars, these city, county, and schools. They got capped at 3.5 and 2.5% for the schools. So, and I said this last year, and I said, the rates are going to go down. And they did. Because what they have to do is, once they calculate, let's say that 2021 was $100,000, and with the increase of the value, they would have ended up making $150,000 for their budget. They have to reverse engineer this, because they could only go up 2,500, let's say it was 2.5%. They would have to reverse engineer that number and reduce the tax base. Do you follow how that works? They don't get to just collect money ad infinitum. They have a cap on what they can get from us. Therefore, if it's more based on this appraisal, they have to reduce that. That happened last year. And as a matter of fact, most people, including myself, saw a reduction in your tax bill. Which, who cares about this if the bill is lower? I think that's hilarious. When I have sellers and they're selling their houses and they say, oh, I want to sell my house for such and such. I said, okay, well, how much money do you want in your pocket? Because really that's all that anybody ever cares about. I could sell you, a brand new car for $100,000, and if you want to sell it, you think you're going to make $150,000, but all the taxes and everything else that goes along with it, and you end up making $98,000. It's what the net is. So for us, what we really want to know is what is the net that we have to pay. The good news is because of this new enactment, those entities, the city, the county, and the school district cannot increase, so they're having to reverse engineer that. Two great things that happened last year that allowed people's taxes their property tax bill to be less. Mine was. I was exciting. And so if you had a situation last year where you got, oh my God, $20,000, my appraisal went up, but your taxes went down, yay, because they're putting policies in place. So here's the good news for this year, which I'm so excited for. However, where am I at? Appraisal. Oh, well, okay, let's talk about the protest real quick before I get into all the good news. So in a case like where your appraised value, remember I said in this situation, you got this house over here, it's a 1985 house, and all of these houses in your neighborhood sold for higher prices. The assessor, the appraisal assessor, comes through with their algorithm and takes all of this neighborhood into consideration because they don't care about, well, they do care about bedrooms and square footage and such, but they don't care about what's on the inside of your house. So if you have not made any improvements to your house and houses in your neighborhood sold for much higher because they did have improvements, that's when you need to protest. I have a very experienced individual over here that I coached last year, and we got her taxes lowered.
$8,000.
Yep. And I've done my own. You know, people always want to say to me, I think it's kind of interesting, well, that protest situation does not work. I said, I've done it personally. I've done it every year since I've been here, and I'm planning on doing it again. So I get money off of the appraised value because my house, of all the people in the neighborhood, I'm fixing everybody else's houses up except for my own. And believe me, it's not as bad as it sounds, but there's chipping and peeling paint, you know, there's carpeting that my cats have, you know, just done that on. And so I could not put my house on the open market for the amount that they say it's worth. But they're basing it on everybody in my neighborhood that a lot of them have done that. So what I saw quite a bit of last year was that, and I'm giving you the best example that I saw, which was just, it's so disheartening for people because they don't know this, that they can protest it. I live over by the base, so I'm intimately familiar with every valuation, and most valuations are the easiest way to break them down is price per square foot. So over there by the base and off of Puckett, which is on the other side of Missile, the houses range about $105 to $110 a square foot if they're fixed up. So this woman lived in this house. She inherited it from her parents, and it was brick on the outside. So the appraisal district does not go inside your house. So they might do a drive-by, but they go, oh, brick house, you know, it's this many square feet, this many bedrooms, and we're going to appraise it for that much. If you went inside that house, there was a huge hole, 2 holes in the ceiling, in the roof. You could see daylight from the house. The air conditioning system completely did not work. The plumbing did not work. There was stuff in the house, I don't even know what it was. And so the house literally on the open market was worth about $60,000. But the neighborhood was not, and the house was appraised by the appraisal district for $150,000. Because the appraisal district didn't know what was inside of that house. She didn't know any of this, and it was way past the time to do the protest. But had she gone and protested and had pictures of that property, they would have reassessed her because they have to. So if you've got a property and you are looking at all of the houses in your neighborhood and they're being assessed because they're selling for a higher amount and yours is not up to that standard, and you really know that based on you live in your house, then you can protest your taxes. One thing you need to know is you need to get the comparable sales, all these little guys here, okay? I'm her realtor, so I do that for free for her. You had a realtor that sold you the house, I would call them. I don't want to put this on that video because people are calling me. If you're here today, you can call me. I can get you comparables. If your house is fixed up though, and you paid for it recently and you paid market value, the likelihood is you're not going to get a protest through because your house really is worth that. You paid that for it. However, in your case, that wasn't true because we got a deal on it. So, a deal or better deal.
Well, and because you helped me up to like the last minute when the
Oh, yeah.
county appraiser tried to throw in
Right.
stuff that wasn't comparable.
Well, okay, so that's why, one of the things, you can imagine that the appraisal district's job is, if you go to protest your taxes, is to say no, right? So you really have to have a little bit of confidence when you go in, and that's why you want to have all of your information together first. I attached to your packages the protest form and the exemption form. So you can file for your exemptions and you can file for your protest, and I think the cutoff date is May 15th. I'd have to check because this all just sort of came together this week. Somebody posted on Whispers that they got their appraisal, and I went, oh, I guess I have to do a meeting. So, but basically what you want to do is be able to show the 3 comps. That's what we call the comparable sales. The 3 comps that are similar to your house, and the easiest way to get those is through a real estate agent because they have access to sold properties. And keep in mind, these are going to be sales that happened from June to December of last year because the valuation is based on January 1st of 2023. So you go with that, take pictures of your house. So you can say, hey, you know, my bathroom hasn't been updated since 1985. I got pink tile in here. I've got carpeting on the flooring in the bathroom. You know, anything. I see so many things in houses. It's just, I can pull these things out because there's so much stuff going on out there. But that's what is important, is that to know that your house could not sell for that much money on the open market. Therefore, that is not the correct value if indeed that is the case. Does anybody have any questions about what I just explained?
Just repeat, house could not sell.
If your house cannot sell for what they've appraised it at, and even if you get a realtor to give you a market opinion, that's going to be good information for you, because it doesn't mean you have to sell your house, but I know, because I know my market and I know my neighborhood and I know what condition my house is, that I could not have people come in and say, I will pay that much money for that house. Because, for instance, in my particular house, my air conditioning system is 35 years old. The carpet in the bedrooms, the cats have just, you know, they frayed it. The flooring's got a little bit of wonkiness to it. The paint job is old. And what I don't tell the tax assessors this, what I don't tell them is that I put granite in some of the rooms and it's got a brand new roof. But the fact of the matter is that they don't know that. And by the way, they're not coming to check. So just take your house in the worst light possible and then share it with the tax assessor's office. So that's the protest process, which I think is really beneficial if you go in and you don't let somebody bully you. And did we say we were going to appeal when they said no at first, or you just came back with some information? I can't remember.
They tried to get me to take a deal over the phone.
Oh, that's right.
And I
Okay.
said
No,
And he
right.
said, well, then you can still come in, but it's not going to change.
Right.
Gave me the list of properties that he was using,
Right.
and I called you.
Right. Well, and so that's a good example of that they do, because they have a high volume of protests, especially last year, because the appraisals went up so much last year because of the big increase in sales. And that being said, they just wanted to do things on the phone. And that they'll do that. I mean, that's going to happen. And personally, that's like doing a small claims. Do I want to do it on a Zoom meeting if I have the opportunity to go in front of the judge? Not really. I want somebody to eyeball me and say no to my face and give me why it is. And they did not give you the evidence, because the comps, they don't always give you the comps that they're using, but the comps that they did give her were not even close or similar to her property. They were larger in square footage and updated and all kinds of things.
So he threw the comps, because I had to supply comps to them.
Right, well, you will have to supply
And
comps.
he threw those out and said, well, we think these are better.
No,
And then I was like, but it's not even the same.
yeah.
And he's like, well, this is the best we can do. And I said, well, I'll be there in 2 hours.
Yeah, and so keep in mind though, if you do this protest process, that this assessor's office is slammed right now, because they're dealing with more than just one person. So they're going to do anything and everything to mitigate it for themselves. And what you have to do, and this is in your life in general, is you have to take a stand for yourself and say, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what's best for me. and then just stand your ground. And I don't mean to be belligerent about it, but the fact is that you did, you stood your ground and you got it.
Yeah, they got mad because I wouldn't shut up.
Well, that's
Once
okay.
you started talking, I'm like, mm-mm. They're like, your 5 minutes are done. I'm like,